How are we doing, guys? Always to be, and with the latest news on this current situation. What is going to happen to football for the rest of the 2019-2020 season? So, last couple of days, been a couple of interesting developments. On that. What's been increasingly mentioned is the points per game method. Something we've not really mentioned so far, but the idea of the points per game method is that basically it's going to be the league table as it is now, if that method is chosen for English football. You know, a lot of different leagues picking different solutions to finishing the season. You know, we've seen the Bundesliga, they've chosen to try and finish the season no matter what behind closed doors, albeit Germany at a slightly different stage in coronavirus, it seems from the government statistics, to other European countries, to the vast majority of European countries. But obviously that could change yet. Obviously Germany, we don't know what's going to happen there, if they're going to have a second peak of the coronavirus, etc., from easing restrictions so soon. But obviously that's a completely different matter. But Germany are going down that route. They've said already they're going down that route. Football's going to restart on the 9th of May for Germany. So other leagues, what have they done so far? So the Eredivisie, they've gone down the route of just voiding the season totally, to much criticism, and rightly so, in my opinion, a lot of criticism. The Dutch league has gone down that route. The thing to note with the Dutch league was, though, that the top first and second teams in the league were level on points. So determining the champion from that is difficult. I will admit that it's difficult to determine the champion from that without playing football. And then we've seen the French league, which is what's brought this whole debate about points per game in the first place. They've gone down that route of points per game. So basically, PSG have been awarded the title. The bottom three teams have been relegated from Ligue 1. The top three teams from the second division of France have been promoted, and it's all been done on points per game. So they're not going to play any more games this season. They're going to look to restart next season as normal, and effectively their season's finished now. PSG are still looking to play in the Champions League. Whether that's going to happen or not, we don't know. But basically what has happened in France is that it's been entirely determined by the league table. So we've seen already Amiens, who have been relegated from Ligue 1, have been threatening to sue the French authorities straight away. They've been relegated with 4 points to safety, but have been relegated as a result of the league position. Lyon have threatened to sue as well because they've been denied the European space by using the table as it is now. And that's the issue, I guess, with that kind of solution. Without playing it behind closed doors, there is the risk of suing and that lot. There's plenty of risk, I think, for any team. If you avoid it or go off points per game, there's going to be that risk element to it. And let's be clear, there is no obvious solution. There's no clear solution that's going to keep everyone happy. Some teams are going to be annoyed by this. I think what authorities have got to look at is what makes the league the fairest. What is the fairest outcome and the best reflection of this season? I think that's a simple solution. For me, I've looked at the way Chile dealt with their situation last season. A lot of rioting was going on in Chile, and they decided to abandon the season with 6 games to go. And they went with the points per game method. But the difference between Chile and France was that Chile decided that no teams were being relegated, only teams were going to be promoted. So effectively the league got bigger. So if you took that solution to the Premier League, it'd be a 23-team Premier League next season. I think that's probably the solution you look at and think, probably the least amount of in terms of impact on teams trying to sue each other, etc. That's probably a fairer solution because no teams get relegated, teams only get promoted. Of course, there'll still be lawsuits, etc., but probably less than what will happen in France, etc. So it's interesting that all different leagues are picking different solutions. But yeah, I think obviously the ideal solution is we play the football, but you have to look at the behind closed doors situation. Is that the fairest way of finishing the season? For me, you have to say no. I don't think it is. I'm quite controversial here. I don't think it is the fairest way of finishing the season. The home teams completely lose their advantage. For us especially, the difference, say for Fulham, which was our next home game, they come to Elland Road or whatever ground they decide to play at. If it's a neutral venue, it's even worse for the home teams. They have a sudden advantage that they're playing behind closed doors. We've not got a home crowd roaring us on. Is that a fair way to finish the season? I'm not sure. You have to look at the other problem with behind closed doors. The big issue I have with behind closed doors as well is financially. If we're going to go down this route of finish the season no matter what, you've got to look at the teams who are highly reliant on match day income. If we're finishing the season, say in September, October, the next season has to be massively shortened, possibly just home only or away only games, etc. You're going to have a lot less games next season if we insist on finishing this season later on. That's the thing. You can't finish this season off and have a full season next season unless you can miraculously get this season finished off in the next couple of months or so. It just can't happen. So you look at that, all of a sudden, there's about 4 home games for each team to go. So you take 4 home games in a whole season off a team's match day income. It's not that big an impact. But if we insist on playing those 4 games and finishing the season later on, say in September, October, possibly even Christmas, with fans, or however they decide to do it, you've then got the next season effectively half the games, which is a much bigger financial impact for me. So you've got to look at it from that point of view. For teams in the Premier League, etc., who are not that reliant on match day income, some teams in the Championship, it's not that much of an issue because they've still got the TV rights, other little bits of revenue streams, and they don't look. They're in the Premier League; they have got TV rights, so the match day income is pretty much a drop in the ocean for those teams. So this is the thing, guys. It's quite a unstructured video, this, but there's so many different solutions being thrown around, and I just look at the behind closed doors and think, A, I don't think it's a particularly fair way of finishing the season. Home teams lose all their advantage. B, financially, it could be able to take a massive hit if we insist on finishing the season behind closed doors, no matter what, because you have a shortened next season. And that's the problem with it for me. I think ideally you want to play the games, but is that the fairest way of deciding it? Not necessarily for me. Of course, points per game is not necessarily a fair way of deciding it, but it probably gives a fair reflection of what teams have done up to now. It does give a reflection of what teams have done up to now. Normally, what the table is now is what it finishes as. I certainly look at last season, what the table was with 9 games to go, was what it finished up with at the end of the season. Obviously, that's not a way of deciding it. I'm just making the point that it's probably the fairest way of going about it. There'll be opposition fans watching this and probably dislike the video, but I'm just giving the opinion that you finish the season behind closed doors is by no means the fairest way of finishing it for me. It's not the fairest way, and I think financially, you look at teams lower than us, look at Leeds. Look how dependent on match day income we are. How much, look, I don't know that for certain, but how much revenue we generate on match days compared to the rest of the league, it's almost twice as much, if not twice as much. In terms of hospitality, purely off ticket sales, the amount of people we get in the ground, that's the thing, you have to look at it from that point of view. If all of a sudden we're playing half the games next season, financially I think teams take a big hit. I think obviously it's not ideal, and that's the thing to emphasise here. No one's going to be happy. No, not all teams are going to be happy. Some teams are going to be really, really frustrated with what happens. I disagree with what France has done from a point of view that teams are getting relegated. I think it should just be bigger leagues next season. Teams are only being promoted. No teams are relegated, because that is quite a tough hit to take. And I think the other issue as well is the split of money. I think the split of money in terms of if a team gets promoted by default to a team that gets relegated by default, obviously lose a lot of TV rights, a lot of different rights from that, from going from one division to the other. There's got to be some kind of even split there, but I just don't like the idea of playing games of such magnitude later on in the season, say September, October time, just for the sake of playing them. Just for the sake of playing them, when such games of massive magnitude and we're playing them behind closed doors. I just can't get my head around that. For me personally, I can't get my head around that. I love football, but football's about the fans for me. I think it's just got to go with the solution that, okay, we have to take a little bit of a bump this season in terms of how it finishes, but it's the fairest way for me. Look, it's going to get dislikes this video, but I was just offering an opinion there, guys, and that's all I can say really. Graham Smith, Phil Hay have boasted it's a strong possibility. Phil Hay actually used the words strong possibility in terms of finishing the season by points per game. The Premier League has said they're still going to try and play behind closed doors, but I think whatever England decides to do, we've got to do it as a collective. If the Premier League decides to do one thing, Championship's got to do the other for me, because both leagues interlink. They're both interlinked, so you can't have one league doing one thing and another league doing the other. So whatever solution's chosen, guys, they've got to go with. But I just look at it and think, in the Championship especially, it's probably the fairest way of going about it. Look, it might seem biased, etc., but I'm just glad we look unlikely to void the season, because voiding the season would have been horrendous. You can't void the season in England. The simple reason you can't void the season in England is because Man City have already won the League Cup. So effectively you're saying that game they played at Wembley never happened. They've won the trophy, they've actually picked up the trophy, they've had their names engraved on the trophy. So if you're voiding every single game from August 2019 onwards, Man City have never won that trophy, even though they have actually won it. So it's daft. You can't void the season. That's absolutely ridiculous. A ridiculous thing to even suggest for me. I can't believe the Dutch first division's done it. Okay. PSV would join to top of the table, etc., etc. It wasn't quite easy to determine who wins the league from there, but I can't believe that's being considered. I hope it's not being considered. It looks like it's not being considered, but hopefully that certainly is the case, guys. But I'm going to leave it there anyway. I just wanted to mention as well at the end of the video, guys, we've had more awful news. Trevor Cherry, another Leeds legend, Nolan Hunter's defensive partner, in the mid-70s, during the 74 title win, during the 75 European Cup final, during the fantastic last years of the Revy era, an absolute rock at the back for us, 29 league game unbeaten run, unfortunately has passed away as well, and it's just more terrible news, guys. And football really is secondary at the minute. Football really is secondary, it really is, it's devastating what is happening at the moment, guys. It is devastating what's happening. And yeah, all our thoughts are with Trevor Cherry as well. It's just absolutely awful, guys. But I just want to end on that note. To wish all our best to Trevor's family. And it is such terrible news, guys. But I'm going to leave it there anyway, guys. Let us know what you think should happen with the season. I'm going to leave it there, guys, and see you later.